All right, welcome to today's Explainer. You know, everyone's talking about generative AI right now. But today, we're looking past those daily headlines. We're going to investigate a massive structural shift happening literally right beneath our feet. We're putting on our data analyst hats today, taking a really objective, documentary-style look at the numbers. Let's just let the data tell the story.
Whenever a new piece of tech drops, what do we talk about? We talk about which jobs it's going to replace, the new ones it'll create, right? But there's this one absolutely crucial question that almost no one is asking, and that is, does AI impact men and women equally in the job market? It's a huge question, and to actually answer it, we have to look really, really closely at the data.
An unasked AI question. Okay, let's just dive right into this. To understand what's going on here, we have to uncover a totally hidden dynamic. So instead of just jumping to conclusions, we're going to build a solid hypothesis based on a pretty fascinating trend we're seeing. Then we'll gather the data and test it rigorously.
So this trend actually starts in higher education. When you look at which university departments are popular right now, fields like electrical engineering and computer science are absolutely booming. And historically, these are male-dominated fields. On the flip side of that, historically female-dominated fields, think foreign languages, the humanities, certain education paths, they're actually seeing a drop in population.
Is AI hitting female-dominated jobs harder? Well, that observation leads us straight to our core hypothesis. Could it be that AI is structurally hitting female-dominated professions harder than the male-dominated ones? Like, are we witnessing a massive technological shift that disproportionately affects one demographic simply because of how our current labor market is set up?
The big data approach. Now, to actually answer that, we can't just look at a couple of tiny surveys or go off our gut feelings, right? We need big data. We're going to dive into massive public records to make sure our analysis is anchored completely in facts, not opinions.
To get that kind of scale, researchers actually pooled data from 31 different universities across the country. And we're not just talking about some elite echo chamber here. This is a really representative mix of top-tier and mid-tier schools. It gives us a genuine snapshot of the whole higher ed landscape.
From those schools, they took over 1,300 departments and successfully matched them to 840 specific academic fields, all using official Ministry of Education data. Basically, that means we compare how popular our department is directly with verified, rock-solid gender enrollment stats.
And the scale of this is honestly, it's pretty awe-inspiring. We're analyzing the choices of over 250,000 students. That breaks down to roughly 129,000 men and 123,000 women. Having a dataset this huge guarantees that the trends we're about to look at are real, statistically significant societal shifts, not just random blips.
Before we reveal the results, let's quickly define our core metric here, human resource value. Researchers measured this by looking at the change in a university department's popularity over a 4-year period. Why do it that way? Because students and parents act like a super-sensitive market indicator. Where they flock to or where they flee from tells us exactly where they think the future job opportunities and risks actually are.
The surprising gender gap. So researchers took those shifts in perceived value, they weighted them by the gender breakdown in those 840 departments, and they ran the numbers. Now, we went into this just looking for the objective facts, but what the data revealed was genuinely pretty surprising.
Okay, look at this. According to the data, men saw an average 3.169% drop in human resource value across their chosen fields. But women experienced an 11.140% drop. So sure, both groups saw an overall decline in this specific metric, but the magnitude of the difference here is just staggering.
The drop for females is roughly 3.5 times greater than for males. Think about that for a second. That is a massive statistical divergence. It really reveals that the shifting tides of the job market are heavily skewed by gender right now.
Drivers behind the data. And this brilliantly illustrates why we have to ask the big question, why? What mechanisms are actually driving this massive disparity? Well, to understand the drivers behind this data, we got to look at what generative AI is actually capable of doing today.
It really comes down to what AI can automate. On one hand, generative AI is super fast at automating tasks like translation, basic copywriting, and administrative workflows. But then, on the flip side, the whole AI boom is creating this insatiable demand for high-level computing, semiconductor manufacturing, and chip design.
Now let's connect those tasks back to historical gender distributions. The jobs that are most immediately vulnerable to AI automation right now: translation, admin work, the humanities. They've historically had much higher proportions of female students and workers.
Meanwhile, the field's seeing a massive surge in demand. Tech, semiconductors, engineering, those have historically been heavily male-dominated. So you see, this isn't about one gender being better at something than the other. It's about how a totally blind technological shift naturally interacts with our existing historical demographics.
Limits and other factors. Now, as good data analysts, we've got to practice some intellectual honesty here and acknowledge the boundaries of this study. The data paints a super compelling picture, for sure, but it is absolutely not the entire picture.
We have to consider confounding variables. AI isn't the only force shifting the global economy right now, right? These enrollment numbers could totally be influenced by broader economic cycles, or industry policies that favor tech, or maybe global trade tensions, or even just recent changes in how university admission systems actually work.
As the researchers explicitly put it, this is a statistical correlation, not direct proof that AI is the sole cause. And we want to be crystal clear about this. This is not some political debate or a value judgment. We're just taking an objective look at structural changes, letting the facts speak for themselves so you can draw your own informed conclusions.
Adapting to the future. So here's the crucial takeaway from all this. If this correlation holds up and AI truly is having a disproportionate impact on female-dominated fields, what are the societal implications? We really can't afford to just ignore this data because the cost of being totally unprepared is going to be immense.
We need some proactive thinking right now. Honestly, this data should be a giant wake-up call for education policy, for government resource allocation, and for our own individual career planning. If certain sectors are facing a 3.5 times greater contraction in perceived value, our safety nets and retraining programs really need to reflect that reality today.
How should our education adapt to the AI era? Which leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on. The AI revolution is here, but its waves are hitting different shores with vastly different intensities. We've seen the data. So now, how should our educational and societal structures adapt to ensure that no demographic gets left behind? It's a massive question, and one we all need to start answering. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the data.